Hey everyone, so I just wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about this crisis that's going on in America. That's the crisis of having federal workers who are either furloughed or showing up to work still unpaid. The 42 million people who may not have food to eat because of SNAP and the WIC benefits that may be affected. I want to touch on all of this because it touches me personally as well as people that I know. And it's a major crisis and we need to talk about it. Brooke Rollins, the USDA secretary, stated that with this ruling that was made that Trump used the emergency contingency funding to fund the SNAP and WIC programs, stated that only half of the funds are actually available for that. And so it's going to be a piecemealing thing where monies are just coming from different places, being pulled together to fund this. Republicans and Democrats need to come together to create a clean resolution for this. The money is there if this bill is passed, rather than piecemealing it all together. It's just not a sustainable option. So personally, I grew up in a SNAP household. My mom was a single mother with 3 children getting away from an abusive situation, and so she relied on SNAP benefits to provide for us. And she also at the same time was working and putting herself through school. She even at one point considered joining the military, but knew that she would have to give up custody of us to be able to do that, and so that wasn't an option for her. So she earned that medical assisting certificate, and at the time I didn't understand why she didn't get a job in that field, and I wouldn't later understand that until I was an adult. But she made it work the best she could with the resources that she had. So I didn't understand until I was an adult and I became a caseworker. And I worked with clients who were in the same situations that my mom went through when we were kids. So I had a client who was making about $10 an hour, and she had the opportunity to work in the medical field, and she was going to make $12 an hour. So we sat down, looked at her budget. She was going to go from about $1,600 a month to about $1,900 a month. And so on paper, that looked like success, right? She's getting a promotion. She's getting paid more. She's moving up. Well, the issue is that she was also, because she was going to earn more money, she was going to lose her child care subsidies. She was going to lose some food stamp benefits. And so on paper, on budget, every month, she was actually going to be negative. And so that's why people get stuck in this cycle where they just can't move up. When you get cut off from your benefits and the amount of those benefits exceed the amount of a pay increase. So there are systemic issues that are keeping people stuck in the system. So definitely there are reforms needed. Likewise, I've also seen abuses on the other end. People that are CEOs and in places of positions of power that are whining and dining on state funds. They're receiving this sort of tax breaks and corporate welfare and those things that allow them to do these extravagant, luxurious things while also pointing the finger at those who just don't have those options. There's a verse that comes to mind with all of this, and that's Proverbs 30:7-9. So I'll just go ahead and read it to you. 2 things I request of you, speaking to the Lord. Remove falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food allotted to me, lest I be full and deny you, and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God. What troubles me most right now is hearing a lot of the vile commentary towards people who are SNAP and WIC recipients. I'm hearing a lot of things like they're just lazy, they don't want to get jobs, they just want to live off of the system. And I know that this just isn't true. There's a lot of stereotyping that's just not true. Like I said, my mom was working and going to school. I had clients who were working and trying to get ahead, hardworking people who need to feed their families. In fact, a lot of the people on SNAP and WIC programs are actually military, young military families that fall below the threshold to not receive the food stamps and WIC. In fact, my husband was in the military. And when I was a young mom raising my kids as a stay-at-home mom, we qualified for WIC. So my husband was just not paid enough as a young military member for us to not even qualify for the program. So there's military veterans, the elderly. There's many people on these programs, maybe even your next door neighbors, that just don't talk about it because of the stigma that surrounds these programs. My mom eventually came off of the system. As we aged out of her household, she became solely financially responsible for herself until she became terminally ill and she required a lung transplant. And that lung transplant disabled her. She was no longer able to work more than 20 hours per week, and she got on Medicaid to help with her bills. She got on SNAP to help with her groceries, and without that assistance, she just wasn't going to be able to live on her own and be able to take care of herself. Now, families do have a responsibility. I was her caregiver. My sisters and I took turns helping take care of my mom. And so, yes, families do need to provide. There is reform needed, and it first starts in the church. So the church has a biblical command to care for the elderly, the orphans, the widows, those who are in need. If it is within our power to give, and we see someone in thirst and hungry, and we just walk past them and we're like, hey, I hope it all works out for you, but we don't actually offer that help, then we're just as bad as the Pharisees. So that reform does start in the churches, but we also need reform in the government. Some of these programs are designed in a way to keep people stuck in poverty. They're just stuck in this cycle, and it often becomes generational. So there's a lot of reform needed. The situation as it is, though, should be a huge wake-up call to all of America. When we are in a deadlocked situation, and Republicans and Democrats cannot agree on the solution, or judges are ordering programs to be piecemealed together, and the community scrambling to come up with food drives, it should help us see that there is a problem and that reform is needed. Like I said, this should be a wake-up call to everyone. We can and we should do much better.